Have you ever felt the urge to defend yourself, to prove a point, to explain your worth, or to strike back when someone disrespects you, only to feel emptier afterward? There's something deeply human in that impulse, that pull to react. But there's also something quietly destructive in it. The more we chase validation or retribution, the more power we hand over to those who never deserved it in the first place. In a world that glorifies retaliation, clapping back and putting people in their place, choosing not to fight can feel like weakness. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if real power isn't loud, but calm, not reactive, but composed? The Stoics believed that strength wasn't about conquering others. It was about mastering yourself. Not your image, not your reputation, but the only thing that's truly yours, your response. That's why silence, when practiced with intention, becomes more than just a lack of words. It becomes strategy, control, command. Today we'll walk through 6 quiet disciplines that don't just protect your energy, they shift the balance of power entirely. But I won't spoil it. Just watch closely. Each one is a mirror, revealing where your real strength has been hiding all along. If you're ready, let's begin. Quietly, intentionally, and without a word. 1. Stop explaining, start walking. Have you ever walked away from something quietly? No goodbye, no explanation, just a shift in your energy, and felt a strange peace follow you. Not the kind that makes you feel safe, but the kind that makes you feel sovereign. That's the kind of peace a warrior earns. Not by shouting, not by convincing, but by choosing silence when the world demands an answer. We live in an age where everyone wants your why. Why you left, why you changed, why you don't respond the same way anymore. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life handing out justifications to people who were never meant to understand you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. That is the essence of this lesson. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you stop asking for permission to be who you've already become. Explanation is a soft chain. Each time you explain, you reinforce the idea that your peace is negotiable, that your movement requires approval. But it doesn't, not if you're walking the right way. There's a man I knew who built his life in silence. For years he worked a quiet job, kept a modest routine, and stayed out of sight. No social posts, no updates. People thought he'd given up. His name stopped appearing in conversations. Some mocked him, others felt pity. What they didn't know was that every morning at 5 he trained. Not just his body, but his mind. While they were distracted by noise, he was sharpening intention. One day, without warning, he resigned. 2 weeks later, he was gone. 6 months passed. A photo surfaced. He was leading wilderness expeditions overseas, strong, focused, unrecognizable, and when someone asked him why he left, he simply said, "Because I had somewhere else to be." No one knew what that meant, but everyone felt it. You see, when you explain too much, you become readable. And when people can read you, they start to write your story for you. That's why Machiavelli warned rulers to act boldly, but never reveal their true motive. Because mystery is not a mask, it's armor. If people can't anticipate you, they can't limit you. If they can't understand you, they can't control you. Stoicism teaches that the only domain you truly govern is the one inside you. That's where the battle is. Not outside, not in the opinions of others, but in the impulse to speak when silence would serve you better. To react when stillness is the stronger move. A warrior isn't the loudest man in the room. He's the one who doesn't flinch when misunderstood. He knows that control is lost, not through conflict, but through explanation. The moment you need someone to get it, you're already bending. Picture a woman who decides to walk away from a circle of friends she once laughed with every weekend. There's no fight, no big scene. She just quietly starts saying no. And when they ask, "Is everything okay?" she smiles and says, "I'm just focusing on some things right now." But what she's really doing is protecting a fragile growth within her, one that doesn't need spectators, one that can't afford to be pulled back by small minds with loud voices. And as the silence stretches, they grow nervous. They start to gossip, to fill in the blanks with their own stories. But none of it touches her, because she's already left the room, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Her silence becomes her signature, and without raising her voice, she commands a space they'll never enter again. Here's a truth no one likes to admit. The strongest people often walk away from arguments they could win, not because they're weak, but because they know winning the outside war would cost them their inner one. Reaction is distraction, even if you're right, especially if you're right. The need to be understood is a hidden form of dependence. And Stoicism reminds us that the only thing we must depend on is virtue, right action, clear intention, and the strength to hold the line even when no one claps. So the next time someone demands your explanation, whether it's a coworker wondering why you've changed, or an old friend who feels entitled to your time, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, do I owe them this piece of me? Or is this the moment I choose restraint over reaction? The warrior doesn't explain his path, he walks it. And, if he's truly on the right way, time will speak louder than words ever could. And that's where we begin, with the decision to be still when the world wants a sound. In the next part, we'll explore the second discipline of quiet dominance. How your presence alone can disarm anyone without you saying a single word. 2. Let arrogance collapse itself. Have you ever watched someone walk into a room, chest out, voice loud, convinced they're the most important person there? They speak not to connect, but to dominate. They flaunt, they flex, they push others down just to rise an inch higher. And the question echoes, should you stop them? Should you prove that you're more, that you know better, that they've underestimated the wrong one? But then you pause, and in that pause, there's power. Napoleon once said, "When the enemy is making a false move, don't interrupt him." And the Stoics would have agreed. Not everything requires your hand. Sometimes the right way to win is not by confronting arrogance, but by letting it collapse under its own weight. You see, ego is loud, wisdom is quiet, and dominance, it doesn't scream. It waits, it watches, it doesn't reveal its strength until the time is perfect. Epictetus taught that if someone thinks ill of you, you don't need to fix it. You don't need to chase their perception or challenge their insult. He said, if evil is spoken of you and it be true, correct yourself. If it be a lie, laugh at it. Why? Because the wise warrior understands. If your enemy's greatest weakness is their pride, the last thing you want is to interrupt them while they're feeding it. Let them eat. Let them believe you're small, unthreatening, easy to ignore. That's when they begin to relax. That's when they open the door. I knew a man once. Let's call him Caleb. He worked under a manager who was all show, no depth. This manager mocked him in meetings, ignored his input, even took credit for his work. Most people would have pushed back, made a scene, proved a point. But Caleb didn't. He kept doing the work, quietly, flawlessly, observing everything, taking notes. Then one day during a regional review, the upper directors noticed something. All the real performance, all the real innovation, it traced back to Caleb, not the manager. Within a month, the roles flipped. The one who boasted was removed. The one who built in silence stepped up, and he never had to raise his voice. That's the art. When someone disrespects you, underestimates you, or tries to provoke you, resist the urge to respond. Don't rise to it. Let them believe they've won. Let their imagination do the work. That's not weakness. That's strategy. Machiavelli believed in the power of appearances, not because they were dishonest, but because they disarmed. To appear less powerful, less aware, less reactive, that's how you enter rooms unnoticed and leave them transformed. In every space, business, family, status, there will be people playing a loud game. Their game is pride, performance, power built on sand. And if you step into that game, you're playing on their terms. You'll lose, not because you're weak, but because you left the right way for the wrong one. You can't outshout someone who lives for noise, but you can outlast them, outweight them. Let them burn the room down to prove they're right while you quietly build the house next door. There's something haunting about stillness in the face of arrogance. It makes people uneasy because they can't read it. They can't control it. When you're silent, you're unpredictable. And that unpredictability makes you dangerous. While they're busy performing, you're observing patterns. While they're showing off, you're positioning yourself. The higher they climb on ego, the further they fall when reality hits. Have you ever seen someone get too comfortable around you? They start slipping, revealing things they shouldn't, acting bold, reckless even, because they've decided you're harmless. That's the moment. Not to react, but to register. Because when a person's confidence is built on illusion, all it takes is time and truth to shatter it. But truth doesn't need to yell. It just needs to stand still long enough to be seen. Marcus Aurelius warned, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And those who crave attention, dominance, superiority, they're already at war with themselves. Let them exhaust their weapons on shadows. Let them dig their own hole, one gesture at a time. And when they fall in, don't gloat. Just keep walking. Remember, you don't dominate a chessboard by moving every piece at once. You win by letting your opponent believe you're losing until they step right into the trap they set for you. This is how the warrior moves, not emotionally, not impulsively, but with silent precision, controlled, grounded, waiting for the right move, not the loudest one. So the next time someone rises with ego and invites you to respond, don't. Let them build the stage. Let them raise the curtain. You just be the silence that waits behind it, because when the time comes, your presence alone will be enough to bring it all down. And now that we've seen what happens when you don't interrupt the foolish, let's talk about what happens when your stillness turns into strategy, the moment you begin commanding without even speaking. 3. Build quietly. Let results speak. Have you ever stood in a room where everyone doubted you but you said nothing? You didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't defend. You just nodded quietly, went home, and got back to work. There's something unshakable about that kind of focus. It's the moment you realize your time is better spent building than talking. Your response doesn't need to echo in their ears. It needs to echo in your results. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, don't argue your worth. Embody it. When you choose the path of discipline, sacrifice, and inner mastery, you stop needing applause. You stop chasing acknowledgement. And that shift, that quiet transformation, is what makes you powerful. Because while others are trying to be seen, you're becoming undeniable. There's a young man named Elias. For years, people mocked his simplicity. No flashy clothes, no wild opinions, no constant updates, just silence and consistency. While others chased temporary attention, Elias kept building. He read, he trained, he worked when no one watched, and for a long time, no one cared. Then one day, he launched a project that outperformed everyone else's in the company. Clean, flawless, effortless. When asked how he pulled it off, he simply said, "I used the time others spent explaining." That was the only answer he gave. And it was the only one he needed. That's the essence of this lesson. People will try to provoke you. They'll question your path, doubt your moves, criticize your silence. But here's the Stoic response. Don't flinch, don't defend, don't break your stride. Just keep moving. You don't owe them your voice. You owe yourself your progress. If they don't understand now, they weren't meant to walk beside you on the way. Let your rise be the answer. Machiavelli warned that perception is everything, but he also taught that the most effective rulers didn't chase perception, they created it by results. He said, "It's better to be feared than loved, not because fear is superior, but because power must be real before it is admired." And real power isn't loud. It moves in silence, then arrives with weight. If you're in that space right now, the in-between, where your vision is clear but the results haven't shown yet, don't panic. This is the most dangerous part of the journey because it's when the world starts whispering, telling you to quit, telling you you're wasting time, telling you to prove something. But remember, warriors don't flinch in silence. They train in it. You may feel invisible right now. That's okay. So do seeds under the soil until they break through. Growth, real growth, is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. A caterpillar doesn't shout before it becomes a butterfly. It isolates, it sheds, it transforms. Then one day, without saying a word, it appears with wings. That's what Stoic power looks like. Steady, unbothered, complete. Not because others approve, but because it has become what it was meant to be. So when someone mocks your silence, when they throw shade or question your value, don't respond with words. Respond with consistency. When someone stirs drama, don't join the noise, join your work. Every hour you build, you move further from their reach. Every day you stay silent, you add weight to your eventual arrival. Let their confusion deepen. Let their assumptions age poorly. Let their words echo into nothing while your presence becomes louder than any defense you could have spoken. And when that day comes, because it will come, when you walk into a room and no one speaks, not out of disrespect, but out of awe, you'll know why you kept going. You'll know why you didn't break. Because success is the only response that can't be argued with. It humbles critics. It silences doubt. It just is. If you felt this message deep in your bones, I want you to write just 2 words in the comments. Only results. Let it be your reminder and your declaration. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the moment. Hit that button silently, with intention, and keep building with us, because in the next part, we'll go deeper into the quiet art of commanding attention without asking for it. 4. Withdraw to regain power. Have you ever looked around and felt like the room you're standing in no longer fits you? The people talk, but it all sounds like noise. The air feels heavier, the expectations lower. The same jokes, the same complaints, the same stories, recycled, familiar, and quietly draining. You try to shrink yourself to stay, to blend in, to keep peace, but deep down, a quiet voice keeps whispering, "You've outgrown this." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Withdraw into yourself. It is in the silence that you will find strength." And that kind of silence isn't about vanishing from life. It's about re-entering your center, about stepping back not out of fear or bitterness, but out of deep intention. Because there comes a point in every warrior's journey when the next level can't be reached by pushing louder, it must be reached by pulling away. This isn't isolation. This is incubation. The Stoics understood that when the world becomes too loud, too opinionated, too reactive, it becomes harder to hear your own voice. And when your own voice is drowned out, you forget what matters. You lose alignment. You forget the reason you started. So they withdrew, not to escape life, but to meet it again with clarity. Machiavelli warned rulers that the crowd is always shifting. One moment they lift you up, the next they turn on you. The masses, he said, are not to be feared or followed, but understood and kept at a distance. That wasn't arrogance, it was preservation. Distance gives you sight, and with sight comes power. There's a story about a woman named Dara. She had always been the glue in her social circle, the fixer, the listener, the reliable one. But over time she started to feel drained, not from what she gave, but from what she kept suppressing. She realized that she hadn't heard her own thoughts in months. Every day was noise, constant opinions, requests, distractions. So one day she stepped back. No dramatic exit, no goodbye speech. She just stopped showing up. She deleted her socials, turned off her phone for days at a time. People called, gossiped, said she'd changed. And they were right. In the stillness, Dara began to feel something she hadn't felt in years, her own rhythm. She walked more, slept better, journaled, read long-forgotten books, trained her body, sharpened her mind, and slowly, without even trying, she started to become someone new, someone calmer, sharper, focused. And when she eventually returned, if only briefly, she was met with confused stares. The same people who once drained her couldn't recognize her anymore. And she wasn't bothered, because the woman they remembered no longer existed. That's what withdrawal does when used correctly. It doesn't just recharge you, it refines you. When you disappear from the noise, you stop being shaped by it. You're no longer pulled by comparison or trapped in the same cycles of gossip, drama, and mediocrity. You stop performing, you stop justifying, you stop reacting, and in that silence, you remember your direction. The Stoics remind us that we are responsible not for everything, but for our own alignment. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. But if neither is true, walk away, not in anger, not in pride, but in clarity." People will try to guilt you for disappearing. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're cold. And that's fine, because you're not here to remain accessible to the same patterns forever. You're not here to explain your evolution to those still clinging to comfort. You're not here to be understood, you're here to become. The right way is rarely the most visible one. It's the road where silence walks beside you, where progress doesn't shout, where goals are built in secret and revealed in silence. And that path terrifies those who cannot follow, because unpredictable people, those who aren't constantly broadcasting, can't be controlled. And what can't be controlled becomes dangerous to those addicted to certainty. Let them talk. Let them wonder where you went. Let them write stories to fill the space you left behind. You don't owe anyone access to your becoming. You don't have to post about your goals. You don't have to announce your healing. Let the old version of you fade in peace, Let people say, "You've gone quiet," while you sharpen your edge. Let them say, "You've been distant," while you draw closer to your mission. And when you return, if you choose to, you'll walk in not as someone seeking validation, but as someone who no longer needs it. People won't recognize you, and they shouldn't. You've earned the right to grow in private, to rise like the moon, disappearing behind the clouds, only to re-emerge brighter, fuller, untouchable. So if you're feeling the pull to retreat, trust it. It's not weakness. It's the warrior in you remembering what matters. Pull back, tune in, and build in silence. Because what you create away from the noise will echo far louder than anything you say inside it. And now, after learning how to rise by stepping away, let's move to the next piece of quiet dominance. The power of not reacting, but recording, turning every insult into information and every moment into strategy. 5. Restrain, observe, then strike. Have you ever felt that sudden spark, the heat in your chest, the rising breath when someone crosses a line? Maybe they insulted you in front of others. Maybe they planted doubt about your abilities, hoping you'd crumble. In that moment, everything in you wants to react, to defend, to strike back. But you don't. You breathe, you stay still, and you choose something else. That is mastery. Lao Tzu once said, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." And the Stoics lived by this. Seneca reminded us that anger is a temporary madness. He warned that when we react without reason, we hand over the one thing we must protect, our inner command. So, what do you do when provoked? You record, you observe, you study, not for vengeance but for clarity. The warrior doesn't throw his sword at every sound in the dark. He waits. He learns the rhythm of the battlefield. He memorizes where the traps are. Then, when it's time, he moves without hesitation because he has all the data he needs. There's a woman I once knew, Elena. She worked in a cutthroat firm where backhanded compliments and subtle sabotage were part of daily life. One of her co-workers, Michael, constantly undermined her in meetings, not overtly, just enough to cast doubt on her competence. People whispered. She heard it. She felt it. But she didn't lash out. She didn't defend herself with empty words. She watched, took note of every instance, logged the dates, the tones, the phrasing, and while she did that, she kept building, sharpening her work, refining her approach. Then, one day, during a high-stakes project pitch, she quietly presented her case. Clear numbers, flawless data, and when asked about inconsistencies in the previous team reports, she pulled out the pattern. Calmly, factually, precisely. Michael had no ground to stand on. He'd exposed himself. Elena didn't defeat him with noise. She defeated him with proof, with restraint. That's what it means to not react, but record. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who loses his temper reveals his position, but the one who gathers information patiently, who hides his intent and waits for the right opening, that prince is untouchable. Every emotion you display is a page from your playbook, but when you stay composed, you become unreadable, and unreadable people can't be controlled. In relationships, when someone tries to distort your reality, don't argue. Just observe. People show you who they are when they think you're not keeping track. Trust the repetition. When someone speaks over you in meetings or tries to take credit for your efforts, don't fight to be seen. Just take note. Use the silence to your advantage. In public, if someone humiliates you with a joke meant to sting, don't retaliate. Stay calm. Let them perform. You don't need to clap back to show strength. Your stillness will do it for you. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our interpretations of them. So instead of reacting, step back. See it for what it is: data, insight, leverage. You're not avoiding conflict. You're mastering it. You're not ignoring disrespect. You're transforming it into clarity. There's a difference. Every reaction you give away is a transaction. You trade your peace for a moment of noise, but every moment you choose to hold, to store, to study, you're compounding your power. While they scramble to provoke, you're building something, quietly, intentionally. A memory bank, a strategy, a legacy that won't need to raise its voice. You'll notice something else. The ones who provoke the most are the ones least prepared for your stillness. They expect fire. When you give them ice, they melt, and in that melting, they reveal themselves fully. This is the right way, the Stoic way, not to suppress, but to direct. Not to fight chaos with chaos, but to master yourself so fully that no one else can reach your center. And when the day comes that you finally move, they'll call it sudden, they'll call it unexpected. But it won't be. It'll be precise, calculated, intentional. And they'll call it luck, but it was never luck. It was discipline. So now, having understood the power of restraint, we turn to the next quiet discipline. The art of presence that commands attention before you even speak. 6. Master peace through indifference. Have you ever reached a point where the insults no longer cut, the gossip no longer stings, and the disrespect just feels irrelevant? Not because the world got kinder, but because you got stronger. Because somewhere along the way, your peace became more valuable than your pride. That, right there, is power. Not the kind that demands attention or wins arguments, but the quiet, unshakable power of indifference. Anton Chekhov once wrote, "To be insulted by a fool is a pleasure, and you don't truly understand that line until you've mastered your own emotions." The world loves to provoke. People who lack discipline thrive on reaction. They poke, prod, gossip, and lie, hoping to shake something loose in you. But when you don't flinch, when you simply raise an eyebrow or walk away without a word, it destroys them far more than any angry reply ever could. You've heard the phrase, "kill them with kindness." But even kindness is energy. It's attention. It acknowledges. Indifference goes further. It removes your presence from the game entirely. It's not passivity, it's precision. You choose what enters your world, and more importantly, what doesn't. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Stoicism doesn't ask you to become cold or emotionless. It invites you to become anchored, to remain rooted even when storms surround you, to detach from outcomes, from opinions, from chaos, and to cultivate clarity. Because once you master that, you become immune to nonsense. There was a man named Reon, quiet, unassuming, always observing. People used to laugh behind his back, whisper things just loud enough for him to hear. At first, he would tighten his jaw, clench his fists, feel the weight of anger rise. But over time, something shifted. He stopped reacting. Not because he gave up, but because he chose to grow. He learned to read the room and walk right past the noise. And soon, the whispers turned into confusion, then desperation. They poked harder, louder, but it didn't matter. Reon was somewhere else now. Mentally, spiritually, internally, he had transcended their reach. One day, during a gathering, one of the louder voices made a joke at his expense. The room turned to see his reaction. Reon just smiled, nodded once, and turned his attention elsewhere. That moment, the silence he left behind spoke louder than any insult ever could. It didn't just end the conversation, it ended their illusion of power over him. Machiavelli warned rulers to learn the art of emotional distance. He advised that a wise leader must not react to every insult, every rumor, every provocation, not because he is above the people, but because he is beyond petty distractions. Focus is the mark of power, and noise is the weapon of the unfocused. If you engage every fool who throws a stone, you never build your fortress. But if you ignore them and keep building, eventually they'll tire, and you'll be untouchable. This doesn't mean you never act. It means you act deliberately. The warrior doesn't swing at every shadow. He knows that silence is sometimes the sharpest blade, and indifference is the shield that never cracks. When someone throws words designed to offend, and you treat them as irrelevant as wind rustling through leaves, you rob them of their purpose. Because people like that don't want truth, they want drama. They want to feel powerful by shaking your center. So when you stand still, when you carry on without a ripple, you expose their weakness with every step you take. Here's what most people miss. Indifference is not a lack of strength. It is the highest form of it. To choose stillness in the face of chaos is an act of supreme control. You don't defend your reputation. You live in a way that makes defense unnecessary. You don't answer every question. You become the kind of presence that makes people question their own. Your silence becomes the room's loudest voice. And yes, there will be those who don't understand, who say you're cold, who say you've changed. And they're right. You have. You've stepped off the stage and into your own lane. You've abandoned the need to explain yourself to anyone who hasn't earned the right to understand you. You've stopped entertaining the trivial because you're building something eternal. Let them talk. Let them wonder why you don't respond. Let them gossip while you create. Let them obsess over your silence while you design a life they'll never have access to. Because when you master indifference, you become a mystery, and mystery is power. This is the right way, not to fight every insult, but to become so deeply grounded that no insult can reach you. Not to win every argument, but to walk away from arguments that were never worthy of you. Not to be the loudest in the room, but to be the calm that silences it. When you don't engage, you don't lose. You elevate. You rise above the noise. And in doing so, you remind the world of a truth they've long forgotten. Real power does not need to prove itself. It simply is. So if there's anything to carry from this, let it be this. Next time someone tries to drag you into their drama, don't reply. Don't defend. Don't even acknowledge. Just move forward like they never existed. That's not weakness. That's emotional immortality. That's what it means to rule yourself, and no one can dethrone a mind that has become its own kingdom. And now, with these 6 disciplines in hand, you are no longer playing by their rules. You're walking a higher path. A path paved in silence, sharpened by discipline, and protected by indifference. Welcome to the realm of the unshakable. You've just walked through 6 silent disciplines that don't just protect your peace, they build your power. Each one is rooted in something deeper than strategy. It's self-mastery, the strength to stay calm when tested, the courage to walk away without a word, the clarity to rise without needing permission. These are not acts of weakness. They are the quiet proof that you are no longer controlled by noise. Remember this: when you master yourself, no one else can. Let others talk. Let them assume. You are not here to react. You are here to rise. If this message stirred something in you, subscribe and stay with us. We're just getting started. Drop your favorite rule in the comments or simply write "Silent Power." Your path is opening. Walk it with stillness. And in the next video, we'll go even deeper into the kind of presence that speaks before you ever say a word.